Today's recipe calls for a jalapeno. I'm going to show you how to make a jalapeno cream cheese bacon twist. It's kind of the elevated version of a jalapeno popper. Nonetheless, they're easy to make and very addicting to eat. So with that said, let's get started.
The first thing we need to do to make this simple but delicious party snack is prep some bacon. Snag a small holding device and 8 pieces or 8.2 ounces or 232 grams of bacon. Toss this into the freezer box for now. I'll explain more later on why we're doing this. Next, we need to prep some aromatics for these little food twists. Collect 1 medium yeller-sized onion. Cut the top off. After the top has been removed, cut the veg into 2 equal sections. We'll only be using half, so save the other half for a different recipe. Whatever side you chose to use, peel all the paper skin off. Now let's start cutting this dang thing that makes people cry. Cut the onion from side to side, making sections that are roughly a 1/4 inch thick, give or take. Do your best to make everything as equal as possible to achieve the best cook later on. Cut as close to the root as possible without cutting through it. Leaving the root intact will keep the onion together, making it much easier to cut. When you have the side-to-side cut made, we need to cut the onion from front to back, making the same size sections. We're shooting to make a small dice on the onion. Following that, snag 3 large garlic cloves or 4 to 5 medium garlic cloves. Cut both ends off each piece. It'll make it easier to peel in the next step, which is giving the garlic a light smash with the broadside of your chef's knife. This will also help peel the skins off. You can finally take that dang old paper skin off. Now that the vampire repellent is naked, we need to slice the garlic into thin little chips. Keep doing this until the garlic has been turned into chips. Following that, make everything into one pile of goods. We need to mince the garlic into small pieces now. Using 2 hands, use the rocking motion to achieve the mince on the garlic. Keep doing this until you're satisfied with how small the pieces have become. Next, grab 3 medium jalapenos. Cut the tip and stem top off. Discard these pieces. Following that, cut the spicy veg into 2 equal sections. Now that we have halves, cut things into sticks that are roughly a 1/4 inch thick in width lengthwise. It's also best practice to cut the pepper with the skin side down or with the skin touching the cutting board. Doing it this way will allow your knife to build up momentum, being able to cut through the tough pepper skins. I'm leaving the pith on inside the pepper, which is the white part. This is where all the capsaicin, also known as the spiciness, is held. If you would like, you can scoop the pith and seeds out of the jalapeno to make things less spicy. After the sticks are cut, we need to make a small stack of goods. We'll cut the veggie into a small dice now. Oh yeah, before I forget to tell you, I highly recommend wearing a glove for this task. You don't want to touch anything sensitive with jalapeno juice on your fingies. It does not feel good. Alright, let's move on to something besides a vegetable, which is 8 ounces or 226 grams pepper jack cheese. You can use whatever type of cheese you like. I chose this cheese because I wanted to drive home the spicy food. Cheddar cheese or a white cheddar would also work really great for this recipe. Collect a medium-sized holding device and a box grater. Grate the cheese on the large side of the box grater. If you have the option, I always recommend grating your own cheese. The end product tends to just be better, but if that's not possible, the pre-shredded stuff will work just as well. When you're done changing the shape of the cheese, rinse the grater real quick. Washing the cheese film off will make it easier to clean later. Alrighty now, back to the protein portion. Grab the partially frozen bacon out of the freezer cabinet. Mine ended up becoming a bit stiff because it was in the freezer a bit too long. It's best to try to lay the bacon flat before you place it in the freezer. It'll make it easier to cut. We need to cut the bacon into medium diced chunks. To make it faster and easier, have the bacon stacked on top of one another. Cut the bacon into 2 equal pieces. After this, cut the bacon lengthwise into long strips of protein. Once you have the strips made, make them into a stack of goods. Now we need to start cutting the bundle from side to side, into the medium dice. Work quickly so the bacon doesn't completely thaw out. Also, just as a reminder, use 2 different cutting boards. You want to use the bacon on one cutting board because it's a raw ingredient, and you want to use a different cutting board for your vegetables, so we don't have any cross-contamination and nobody gets sick. Which reminds me, the reason why you want to partially freeze the bacon is because it'll make it much easier to cut. If the bacon was just barely cold or at room temp, the fat in the bacon would start to melt and become very difficult to cut through, not allowing you to achieve clean cuts. Also, try not to handle the goods too much. Your body heat from your hands will also start to melt the bacon fat. After the protein is in the bowl, break up all the pieces that are stuck together. Following that, thoroughly clean your work area really well. Okay, now that we have all the cutting and chopping done, let's start cooking some things. Snag a large sauté pan, the bacon, and all the veggies. Take this over to some type of cooking device and toss it over a heat source. Do not turn the heat on right away. We do not want to preheat the sauté pan. It'll make more sense why we're doing this shortly. Toss the diced bacon into the cold pan, spreading it out to make it into one even layer. Once the ingredient is in the cooking tool, crank the heat level up to a low-medium heat level. Now we need to sauté the goods for 10 to 12 minutes or until it becomes very crispy in texture. It will initially stick to the pan, which is normal and fine. As the pan starts to warm up and the bacon starts to cook, it will release itself from the sauté pan. Throughout the cooking process, give the bacon a stir from time to time. Ensure to break up the pieces that are stuck together. Also, make everything into one even layer. Doing this will help ensure all the pieces receive a proper cook. The reason why we want to start it in a cold pan is because we want to slowly render the fat out from the bacon, meaning it will slowly melt, allowing our bacon to cook evenly and to become nice and crispy. The melted fat will basically cook the bacon for us. If we added the bacon to a hot preheated pan, the protein would end up burning way before it fully cooked. Once you start to see things browning and turning slightly crispy, this is a good time to stir things more often or consistently. You'll want to keep a close eye on things because at this point, things will cook quickly. Alright, once you notice all the bacon has become brown and crispy, immediately take it off the heat source. The delicious item will carry over cook, meaning it will continue to cook and become crispy once off the heat source. We don't want to burn things. We've come too far in this short recipe journey. Snag a plate or bowl that has been lined with a paper towel or some type of absorbent material. When you have that set up, clear the pan out, placing the bacon into that for now so we can move on to the next step. Drain the bacon pieces as much as possible. We do not want to transfer over too much of the bacon grease. You want to ensure you collect all the little pieces. We do not want to leave anything behind. If we did, it would burn and it would give the final result a bad taste. The only thing that should be left in the pan is the liquid fat, also known as grease. Pour all that grease into a heat-proof container, preferably something metal because that's the safest choice. When doing this, be extra careful because it's some hot business. Hot, 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 and you don't want to burn yourself. We'll set the grease aside for now. Once the pan is empty, toss in the onion we diced earlier. Season it with some coarse ground kosher salt, give it a mixer to spread the salt around and to coat the onion in whatever bacon fat is left in the pan. If it doesn't seem like there's enough, add a 1/4 teaspoon or 2 of the bacon grease so things cook. Do not add too much or things will become greasy and gross. Sauté the onions for about 8 to 9 minutes or until they become translucent and are becoming soft in texture. Also, before I forget and we get further into the recipe, you can totally cheat and make this a much easier way by using onion and garlic powder and some pre-cooked bacon bits and skip cooking the jalapenos. Now back to whatever I was talking about. You'll notice the pan had a bunch of stuff stuck on the bottom of it. This is known as fond, which holds a ton of flavor. The moisture in the onions will help pull all of that up, making the end result that much better. When the onions have been fully cooked, toss the jalapenos in next. Season them with salt, then give everything one giant mix together. Cook the spicy ingredient for 8 to 9 minutes as well, or until the green veg becomes bright in color. You may have to turn the heat down just a little to prevent anything from burning. After those have been cooked, open up a spot in the middle of the veggies. Dump in the minced garlic, saute this on its own for 30 to 40 seconds or until things become fragrant in smell. When it reaches this point, fully mix it into the rest of the ingredients. Give it a quick taste test and adjust the seasoning as needed. Once good, take it off the heat source. Allow it to cool for about 10 minutes or until it's not ripping hot anymore. In the meantime, collect a large holding apparatus, a rubber spat, and 8 ounces or 226 grams worth of softened full-fat cream cheese. Flatten or spread the cream cheese out. This will make it easier to mix the goodies into it. Once the veggies have cooled, add them to the bowl of cream cheese. Before we get to mixing, we need to do one last thing, which is give our cooked bacon a quick rough chop. Doing this will make sure the bacon is spread out throughout the mixture. Add the bacon to the bowl. With your rubber spat, fully mix everything into one tasty mess. Ensure you're scraping the sides and bottom of the bowl to achieve the best mix together. You may have to stop to scrape the spat tool clean to get off anything that is stuck on so it can be mixed in. Alrighty, once you have all that mixed together, make it rain half of the cheese that we grated earlier. We'll save the other half for later on. Give that a mix until it's fully incorporated in. Once there, give it a taste test and adjust the seasoning as needed with salt. Do not overmix this stuff. Doing so will make the cream cheese break, causing it to release the water it holds, which would make the mixture a mess. Your arm would probably fall off before that happened though. It's just a reminder if you're using a machine to mix, or if you have crazy mixing by hand abilities. Once things taste good and look good, let's move on to the next thing, which is preheating the little oven box. You want to crank the heat up to 400 Fahrenheit or 204 Celsius. While that's getting all hot and bothered, we can finish making these popper twists. Collect a half sheet tray and some parchment paper. You may have to do some arts and crafts to size the paper correctly to fit it onto the tray. After you've managed to not get a paper cut, set it aside for now. Next, pull the puff pastry out of the food preserver, also known as the fridge. You want to leave the puff chilled until we need it. If it becomes room temp, it'll become very sticky and hard to work with. This is the puff pastry that I'm using. You do not need to use the same brand, but it is best to use a refrigerated type of puff pastry and not a frozen style puff pastry. The refrigerated version works best for this application. Okay, open the scroll of dough. Hang on to the parchment paper, leaving the dough on top of it. It'll make it easier to work with later on. When the dough is laid out, slightly stretch it out with your built-in grabbers. Stretch it by maybe a 1/4 inch or so. It's more important that things lay flat and are the same thickness all the way across. Once you're done playing patty cake with the puff, slap the cream cheese filling on top of half of the pastry dough. Spread the goods out into one nice, even, equal layer. Take the filling basically right up to the edge, leaving 1/8 inch border all the way around. I left way too big of a border on mine, meaning one of the twists barely had any filling in it, so don't make the same mistake I did. Alright, now that everything is spread out evenly, we need to fold this dang old thing. Grab the parchment paper that's underneath the pastry to fold it over to the side that has the goods. Fold it so the edges meet one another. This is why we saved the parchment from earlier. Crease the fold and lightly push the two pieces together to ensure things do not come apart. Alright, we're close to being done with the prep work. Snag a pizza cutter so we can finish these things up. If you want, you can trim the bottom to make things square, but I'm skipping that step. With the folded edges facing you, cut the twist from side to side into sections that are roughly 3/8 inch in width, or into however many pieces that you would like. Just do your best to make things as close to the same size as possible. When everything has been cut, bring the lined sheet tray back into camera view. Before you place them on the tray, twist them a few times or until you get 5 twist bumps, give or take. You can twist it as much or as little as you would like. If you do too many twists, things may squeeze out the sides though. Just keep that in mind. When placing the items on the tray, leave a little space between each one since they will rise while baking. When the tray becomes full, toss it into the fridge for now and then continue the same process with another new tray. After all the little twists have been made, we need to make an egg wash for the tops of these things. Crack an egg into a small container, add a splash of water or milk, should be about half a tablespoon. Once it's made, bring the popper twist back. Paint each one with the egg wash. Ensure you hit each curve and all the surface of them. Doing this task will give the goods a nice golden brown color during the baking process. Following the new paint job, sprinkle the tops with the rest of the grated cheese from earlier. We'll do these steps for all of our twists. After they've been covered with the juice, snag the tray and pop it into the preheated oven on the middle rack. We'll bake these bad mamma jammas for 15 to 20 minutes or until they have puffed up and have turned a golden brown color. Times may vary depending on how hot your oven runs, so don't be afraid to check in on them from time to time. If you can, just look at them through the oven window. Once the buzzer rings, pull the tray out of the heat, replacing it with the other tray. Repeat the same process as before. Allow them to cool for 7 to 8 minutes or until you run out of patience. Make a ton of these for game day when everyone is over, or make these as a snack. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy.
These things came out so dang good. There's a ton of flavor going on for it. The first thing that kind of hits your palate is that spiciness from our jalapeno, but to help counterbalance that is that cream cheese, which is nice and rich and fatty and has that distinct flavor to it. It's also nice and cheesy from our Monterey Jack in there. Our onion and garlic build a good tasty base flavor, and that caramelization that we got on our cheese and that golden brown color from the puff pastry brings a ton of flavor as well. Then of course that bacon brings that nice bacony flavor and a bit of saltiness as well. It pairs really well with the rest of the ingredients. Texture wise, it's nice and light and airy from our puff pastry. It's really soft. Then we get a bit of crunchiness from the cheese on the outside. These things are so dang good. I just ate the whole thing, so I couldn't show you. This recipe is super simple to slap together, and these things would be perfect to take to a party because they're easy to make and they're guaranteed to be a crowd pleaser. And you can make them any which way you want. Maybe get rid of the pepper jack because you don't want that much spicy stuff. So you can add some extra sharp cheddar cheese or a white cheddar cheese, pretty much whatever you want. Or you can get rid of the jalapenos and use some green chilies to kind of knock down that spiciness, but still have a good tasty flavor with the cream cheese and the green chilies, which sounds super bomb. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. It's fairly nice outside, and I'm gonna go outside and enjoy that weather before it gets too cold. So we'll see you on the next one. Could you imagine? I'm just kidding. I'm too white. Not really, but you know. Anyways, bye. To make for a shindig that you're going to make as an appetizer or as a sharing plate to take to a party. And you already said a shindig, which is the same thing as a party. It's gonna take forever. Maybe ditch the Monterey Jack, not the Monterey Jack, but the, I don't even know what cheese I use now. Pepper Jack. Nice golden brown color taste, which doesn't make any sense. Tender, and then that chia pet. Easy to make. They'd be perfect to make.